Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of our Overwatch show. Let's break it down. I am your host, Nathan Grayson, and I'm joined, as always and forever, until death do us part, by Cecilia D'Anastasio and Heather Alexandra.
I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah, that is not anything we signed up for. We love Overwatch, but that is really, really intense.
You should have read the fine print.
Okay, you caught us there. It's all in the Blizzard.
It's in the EULA, yeah.
The EULA, yeah.
The old EULA hoop.
We're off to a bad start. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the future.
The future of Overwatch.
Mm-hmm. And also a certain shenanigan that Cecilia got up to this week.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, actually, we should probably start with this because this is actually so you've had a string of super cool stories, and this is actually my favorite.
Thanks, Heather. You do good work, too.
That's very, very nice. We all do work. Nathan, you're cool, too.
Yeah, I'm all right.
But so you saw online that there were listings on Fiverr, right, for people who play Overwatch.
Yeah,
and so you played with them.
Let's start from the beginning.
Okay, hit me with it.
I was on Twitter, which is how every bad story starts.
I was this is kind of a mistake right there.
Right. That was my first mistake. I was on Twitter, and I saw a tweet, and it said, so, ... it's come to this, ... And there were all of these screenshots of women on Fiverr saying, I'll play Overwatch with you, or I'll be your pocket mercy. And for $5 or $10 or $15, they would play 5, 10, 15 games, maybe an hour, 2 hours, with whomever paid them a fee. And I was well, before I talk about what I thought about this, I have to say what the replies to this tweet were, which were near uniformly oh my God, the world is ending. Did you guys see this tweet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think for a lot of people, it never really occurred to them to be people would pay for play partners, and then also, of course, there's that gendered aspect where people make a lot of really crummy assumptions, but also just the idea of I need somebody for Quickplay. I'm going to toss down $5 and play a couple of rounds. That's so strange, but it does feel so quintessentially now,
right?
In terms of we always you order out food from Seamless. You buy everything through Amazon.
Of course
you can order
Overwatch friends.
You can absolutely order Overwatch buddies.
Yeah.
The future's a dystopia. We live in a dystopia.
I really, that is not how I feel about paying women to play Overwatch with me.
I think this is really cool.
I think it's cool too, and I know that because I did it many times the other day. In case you were wondering, that was comped. Kotaku paid people to play Overwatch with me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, let the record show.
She wants to establish she's no, I didn't throw down $5 so people could play Overwatch with me. No.
I haven't been compensated yet, so... Anyway.
Keep on going.
So what happened was I contacted these women on Fiverr. I paid them their fee, and we queued up and played Overwatch together. And during the process of playing Overwatch with them, I interviewed them about what are you doing? How'd you get into this? How much money have you made? Who are the people you are doing this with? And uniformly, all of their clients were men. None of them were creepy. And most of the time, these women weren't playing to just sort of be sexy gamer girls. They weren't playing just for
fun,
cute companionship. These girls are ranked grandmaster.
Yeah, they're really good players.
Yeah.
They sit down and they put in practice time in order to make sure that they're doing good during those matches.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Well, of course it's a real thing. It happened. But it's more it's a real thing that they put a lot of time into. It's actually it kind of becomes a little bit like a job.
It is like a job.
Yeah.
They're boosting you. And of course, all of them admitted, yes, there's a gendered aspect to this. I'm sure that's the initial lure for people to be seeking me out and paying me. But on the other hand, as someone who played Overwatch with these women, goddamn, they were really good. But in addition to that, I did pay one woman to be my pocket mercy. And I don't feel good about it.
Why do you not feel good about that? Was she... she was probably a fine Pocket Mercy.
Oh yeah, she was great. I
Yeah.
would totally pay her again to
So
do that.
what is that line then that makes you go like, oh, I don't know, like I paid this person to be my Pocket Mercy.
Well, it feels unfair.
It feels unfair.
And also, in life, we all feel a desire to earn our pocket mercies. It's about making those connections.
Oh yeah, so yeah, we have to work a little bit harder.
Till death
and
do
then
us
you
part.
Exactly.
Yes, that is in the Pocket Mercy EULA.
Yes. Which is signed by every Farah that plays the game.
Oh my god. Nathan,
All of us want to find our pocket.
as a Farah main, like, I know when you get back to California, Nathan's actually in New York with us right now.
I am.
Incarnate.
Yes, I'm touching him right now.
Yeah.
Literally touching him.
It's
you
a
can't
false
see it.
form.
I know
don't
that when you
actually
go
have
back
it.
to California, you're gonna spring for this as a Farah main.
I really
Oh,
do
yeah.
appreciate how much you see things through the lens of somebody who's like, oh yeah, no, how does this affect me as somebody who plays Farah? Like, not just like, how does this affect me as an Overwatch player, but you're like, shit, yeah, Pocket Mercies, what?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I think it's very, very cute.
I don't think that it's necessarily useful to see the world through any other lens. I mean, I don't think that's a controversial opinion.
So you're playing with these Overwatch folks, and was there anything like, so like, I know that you could, or at least one time you were like, hey, play Torbjorn.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah,
You
your
put that in
guilt.
there. It's really
The
cool
guilt.
though, because like, there's this weird aspect of it where you can be like, well, I paid you money, play Torbjorn.
Well, she said, okay, she said sometimes clients will choose a hero for me and a hero that I wouldn't normally play so they can get a good laugh out of it. And as a reporter, I wanted to experience what that was like purely for research. And I did. I asked her to play Torbjorn. And, wow, that was like really fun. I felt bad. I really felt bad. But she seemed to be enjoying herself, and she wasn't taking things very seriously. And I have a reputation for taking Overwatch a little bit too seriously, so it kind of brought me out of that for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I could envision people, though, using this as, like, even if it wasn't, for gross stuff, as, like, a power thing. Like, now you have to play whoever I want, and you have to be at my beck and call, and, like, all this kind of...
Well,
Yeah, it's like the runoff from all the times you play comp, and you're like, all I want is for someone to not play Widowmaker right at this very moment, and you can pay someone and tell them to play whomever you want.
I could also see, like, elaborate forms of trolling arising, like paying for the opposite, paying someone to stay on Widowmaker no matter what, just to drive your team crazy.
Oh my god, that's the next article.
the dimensions of this are like so bizarre to me though, because so you can just be like, oh, play Torbjorn, or like there's even the weirder stuff. You said that they don't really run into too much weird stuff, but I think you mentioned that like one of them, like sometimes they get people who are like, yeah, just like play with me and talk like softly on mic.
That was
And,
one
like all
dude.
this like, yeah, isn't that like, so there is this thing of, yeah, you can have a good partner. Yeah, these girls play incredibly well, but they do have to put up with people who are like, play this crummy character, or I guess whisper sweet Overwatch nothings to me.
To be fair, I mean, the same guy asked I believe it's the same guy, asked all of these women to do that, to whisper sexy Overwatch things into the microphone. I hated saying those words.
No, but it's an aspect of the story that
But all
should
of
be
them said no.
acknowledged.
All of them said no.
Yeah,
All of them
good.
said
Good
that's
for them. Of
disgusting.
course they
Absolutely
should.
not. Yeah, and the response I got from them after the article was positive for the most part. One woman was upset because, she's a Grandmaster ranked Ana. She boosts other players. She believes there is no gendered aspect to her work. And she felt like several of our commenters had kind of, I don't know how to put this, but the word overthought was thrown around in the comments.
There's a disparity, right?
Yeah.
Between like, so this is, I'm going to assume this is the one who also marketed herself as like a coach, right?
Yeah, she was a coach.
So she has a certain way of approaching it that seems a lot more, a little bit more focused than maybe some of the other ones who are doing this. So for commenters, and commenters do all sorts of stuff, we know that, right? But to have commenters kind of reduce, her skill level and the things that she's trying to do there, yeah, of course that can be definitely disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. Overall, however, I would say I highly recommend paying people to play Overwatch.
I kind of want to do it.
It's great.
Yeah,
they hang out. They stay on the payload. They stay on the payload.
You know what
they
we should
stay
do?
on the payload.
We should pay someone to come onto our show because we're not going to get people otherwise.
Oh my god.
We should pay somebody $5 to impersonate Nathan Grayson.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought that I'm inimitable, but I think I'm wrong.
It's just going to be somebody coming in being like, oh, Farah. Oh, like, Farah's really cool. That's not how you sound at all, but that's how you sound in my brain right now.
No, I mean, that was spot on.
But yeah,
I thought I was talking.
This was a killer story, and it's such an interesting aspect of a weird kind of section of the Overwatch community that you wouldn't think necessarily exists.
You know, people are having custom sex roleplay games.
Yeah, that's true.
Like-
I mean, that's illegal, technically.
Right. People are doing a lot of stuff with Overwatch that just like, if you're just in and out playing comp matches and like cycling through Quickplay with your friends, like you're not necessarily going to encounter all of these sort of fringe ways people use the game. So I'm happy I can highlight people who are doing that, but also like I don't think it says something greater about where Overwatch is going and what kind of people play Overwatch. I just think that it's one thing that is happening right now.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I think one thing that it says is that people play the game in a lot of different ways, and there's this like huge number of people playing it to the point where, for one, people look at the game and see an opportunity to make money off of providing a particular way to play the game to other people. I don't think that you would see that in a lot of games of smaller sizes. I just don't think it's possible. But yeah, so the thing I did this week that was Overwatch related is I talked to a bunch of Hanzo mains.
Oh,
yeah, that's
my
right, yeah.
god. Oh my god. I can't believe you even dignified them.
Oh, that's...
I loved this article.
They're just
I
trying to
loved
have a
this
good
article.
time.
I know. Nathan, tell us about the article.
Tell
It
us
was
about
so
these
good.
Hanzo mains.
Yeah, so I basically just, what I wanted to know was,
Why?
yes, like many great stories, it began with the question why, but also, were people being affected by the fact that Hanzo is now a meme? That being a Hanzo main is a derogatory term, and that if people play Hanzo, they tend to, get shit for it. And what I heard from people was, yeah, like one person said 70% of the time that they play as Hanzo, somebody gets mad at them. And another person was just like, oh yeah, it happens basically every game. It's inevitable. If you're a self-described Hanzo main, people will go after you.
So, but like, break that down for people, because I feel like the Hanzo main hate has become so memeified and so abstracted from why people actually hate Hanzo players that it's almost like people forget.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about playing Hanzo that makes Overwatch less fun for teammates?
So there are a few things. One of them is that Hanzo is hard to play. He's a character where if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be really ineffective versus just kind of ineffective. And so that's irritating for people. And the other side of that is because he's a sniper, he's doubly ineffective when you're bad because he's not down in the thick of things absorbing damage. And that's a huge part of Overwatch. It's important just to be a body in the line of fire. And Hanzo can't really do that at all. And so, yeah, he can be more ineffective than other characters. And that,
But
like,
I think you missed the most important point.
What is the most important point, Cecilia D'Anastasio?
That's not my last name.
All right, so, but what is
How
the
do
most
you win a
important
game of Overwatch?
by shooting the most arrows.
point? Playing the fucking objective.
Playing the objective. Why I hate Hanzo mains is because it can be, the other team can be at 99% and they're going to cap the objective and nobody is close except for that one Hanzo, and he's just like 10 feet above the objective and will not deign to descend from his wonderful sniper perch to just like dip his foot in and like save the game for your team. Like, that's just the way Hanzo mains play.
I guess, but I feel like my feelings on this subject kind of go the other way. I have no particular problem with Hanzo mains. I actually find this whole kind of situation, and it started really with a lot of the Widowmaker stuff, where people were playing Widowmaker. Patricia on our site did a feature of somebody who got tons of shit for playing Widowmaker, even though there were pretty decent Widowmaker player. And I think it really came to a head once. Was it for IGN? They did some questions, I think, with Jeff Kaplan, Jeff from the Overwatch team.
Yeah.
And they had some questions about somebody who was a Hanzo main. And I think once it gets to that level, it starts to feel like it's kind of funny for a little bit. But for me, I kind of like, I want people to have fun and play whatever, right? Like, that's who I am. And so the way that this has progressed, Hanzo mains are people too, I think is my general conceit.
Controversial statement.
I know, right? But I think we got to cut them a little bit of slack.
Counterpoint, no.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Counterpoint.
She's right.
Counterpoint. So there's one person on a 6-person team, right? And if you are the kind of person who just like enjoys playing Hanzo, I think that's beautiful. Go for it. Do arcade matches. Because for most players, like the rush of winning, I think definitely is greater than like their desire to play one particular character. And the enjoyment of coordinating something as a team and having like really good communication and good vibes with strangers on the internet is really beautiful. And if there's one person you feel is being selfish in this calculation, then that can really make you feel a lot less, I don't know, empathetic to your teammates and a lot less excited about playing the game.
Oh, yeah, sure. But at the same time, I mean, one of the things that I heard from a lot of the Hanzo mains is some of them at least were players who would maybe, you know, come home from work with the intention of playing a match or two in Quickplay. And they play because they like the way that Hanzo in particular feels to play. And that's kind of the draw for them. And so they're like, who are other people to tell me who to play when this is like a precious and small use of my time, and this is why I play.
But are there no single-player games that can also encapsulate, like, the wonderful feeling of Hanzo?
Look, I'm looking forward to Overwatch Journey of Hanzo as much as everyone else. But it's not out yet, so...
It definitely is this thing of balancing. So we were talking even just in passing about how there are different ways that people can experience this game, all the different economic ways, social ways. And I don't think that everybody who plays this game kind of on that Bartle scale is like an achiever or like a killer, right? I think some people are doing this for the social aspect or things like that. And so finding a way to balance those desires when it's a game that is like, hey, go into comp, get ranks up, like make sure that you stay platinum, don't dip down. I think there's a lot of tension there, which is strange to me because otherwise Overwatch is like this really bright, colorful thing where it's like, you know, anyone can be a hero, like that kind of shit, right? But when push comes to shove, it's also like, I mean, we said it earlier, even like play the fucking objective, do what you have to do, but you want to find the balance, and
so
I think it's difficult.
I think that's a good way of putting it because, like, recently I wrote an article about why I don't really play Quickplay anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's because I encounter a lot of players there that kind of, to use your terms, Heather, are a little bit more antisocial about their hero picks. Mm-hmm. And, like, a lot of people will ask me, like, oh, is comp harder than Quickplay? I always say no, because people are coordinating in comp. People are working together. People are fulfilling needs that the team has collectively. And so, you know, the level of play can honestly be higher, but people are playing the game the way it's meant to be played. And Quickplay, lately, I believe, has become kind of this, like, I don't know, this, like, swamp of like the detritus that's like left over from comp and all of these desires that people like don't actually get to pursue when they're playing the game in this very like strict and orderly fashion. And I've had a lot less fun playing Quickplay matches for that reason, because lately it's been like, okay, I have 4 defense heroes or 3 defense heroes. We're on attack. We're losing. Nobody wants to heal or switch. And as somebody who is willing to switch depending on what the team needs, you can feel like your teammates are just like antisocial, I guess.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like that's kind of the idea. Like if you want, you know, things to be really orderly and organized among your team, then you play comp. And if you want kind of a grab bag where you don't really necessarily know how it's going to go down, maybe sometimes your team will go for it. Maybe other times it'll just be a bunch of people screwing around. Quickplay. And then if you want really ridiculous stuff, you go arcade. But, like, I feel like that's kind of, like, going into Quickplay with really high expectations about what people are going to do, probably just going to lead to disappointment.
But who was it the other day? I'm going to quote you, Nathan Grayson.
Oh, boy. I love being quoted.
You told me, like, I'm okay with anyone playing whatever the hell they want in Quickplay in theory, unless it's my game.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I stand by that.
But what do you
And
mean?
now,
I feel like that's contradictory.
Listeners, you understand if we ever play together, then you play by my rules if it's Quickplay with me. But otherwise, do whatever you want to, do whatever your heart desires. I love you. So there we go. That settles that.
I think a thing to keep in mind is, particularly when I'm getting together friends to play, they can get really nervous about playing comp because they feel a pressure to perform in ways that they don't necessarily feel otherwise in Quickplay. Like, in Quickplay, yeah, you can mess around, have multiple characters. Well, not anymore. That's like in an arcade. If you go into arcade, you can. But in Quickplay, there's not as much pressure to perform because if you mess up, or even if you're trying really hard and you don't do as well, you're not dragging someone's ranking down. And I don't really put as much stock into rankings as other people, but I feel like a lot of people like really cling to that. And so if you make a misstep, or if you're messing with your friend's ranking or something like that can be a crummy feeling, you know?
You were also platinum last season.
I was.
Yeah,
I was.
Heather's easily the best of us. But I think what we're kind of zeroing in on here is a worthwhile question, and that is, does the fact that Quickplay kind of exists as an awkward middle ground between the kind of strictness of competitive and the all-out chaos of arcade, is that not a good thing? Does it make it so that people have so many different expectations coming in that it just becomes frustrating pretty much no matter what you want out of it?
I think it's good that it exists. It does not correspond with my favorite way of playing.
I think, so I'll use that as a way to segue into what might actually be our last topic or so, but I think that for now it's in an awkward place. But I think, like, once League gets set up and there's this definite, like, very clear distanciation between, like, kind of more, I guess we'll call it casual competitive, right? And then, like, this is League play. I think more people might gravitate towards comp because they're not going to somehow leap into a match and, like, AKM's just going to show up on his tracer and kick your ass or something, right? I mean, that's ranking dependent, but I think as different modes in Overwatch are established, different kind of ranking tiers, once League hopefully gets established in a way that isn't bonkers, I think more people might gravitate towards comp because they feel like there's a little bit more accessibility.
So let's talk about why League could be bonkers.
Yeah.
Because Nathan's been doing some great reporting on this.
Yes, lay it on us, Nathan.
Yeah, so this week, I mean, technically last week, sort of, but information started to trickle out about the buy-in price for Overwatch League. Overwatch League is going to be Blizzard's official esports league for the game. Right now, there's an esports scene, but it's kind of done independently, with Blizzard saying this is okay, but not having a direct hand in it. And so Overwatch League, Blizzard pretty clearly wants to be a big deal. And they're treating it that way before they've even really said anything about it, at least publicly. And so they're courting offers from both esports organizations that have been around in other games like CSGO and League of Legends and all that, and also like actual sports teams, so people in the NFL. And they're asking a lot of money, at least allegedly. This is stuff that I've heard from sources, and that ESPN did a story on, where they also heard from various sources. And the numbers right now sound like they're going to be in the ballpark of 15 to 25 million for a spot in this league that does not exist yet and may or may not make people a lot of money.
And so, just for comparison, about how much does it cost to enter a League of Legends team?
1.8 million. And League of Legends also has the advantage of being the biggest esport out there right now and one of the biggest games on Earth.
It's definitely a lot to ask for an investment that you have no clue about what's gonna really come from it. And you have like bigger names that are getting into it. Wasn't Bob Kraft's name getting tossed around about? He's one of the owners of the New England Patriots and a couple other things for those of you who don't know. and presumably the macaroni. I don't remember. But in my brain, yes, the macaroni. But there's like lots of names getting tossed in here. And we had already seen some of this with some of these sports teams already, Energy and Shaquille O'Neal and stuff like that. And there's just this growing barrier, presumably based upon this cash limit. That's a real big problem.
Yeah, and it's not just a cash limit, too. Like, Nathan has pointed this out before. It's also a tech limit, because Overwatch is a dynamic and fun and exciting game to watch, but the interface for watching it competitively is a little bit flawed.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
Right now the game's spectator tools are not in a good enough place to make it a presentable esport for non-players of the game. And even if you do play the game, it can still get really confusing.
Why?
In big old team fights and stuff. Because right now, primarily they still have you viewing through first person, occasionally switching out to like kind of canned third person angles. But they'll switch between two characters on different teams, and the only way to really tell that they've done it is by paying attention to the borders on players' interfaces. So like one will be red, the other will be blue. And that creates a host of problems. One of them is that in the middle of a team fight, you're already paying attention to so many other things that you might not notice that quick switch. And the other problem is that the way that we're used to playing the game is a border is consistent all the time. And no matter what we're doing, we're always blue, they're always red. And so then in spectating, one side is blue and the other is red. And you've got to untrain yourself from that instinct of there's the enemy, there's the other team, etc.
Is that really too much to ask?
It's not that it's too much to ask, it's just that it takes time.
Yeah.
And so it's a barrier to entry that is weirdly high in its own way.
But there are also the camera issues.
In regards to just like the way that they position it and stuff?
Yeah, like I've had some difficulty on occasion following competitive Overwatch matches because of the way the camera switches from third to first person very quickly. And I feel like I miss a lot of really cool plays because of that.
Well, the other problem is just, and this has been brought up with other first-person games that aspire to esports, but it really is just that first-person viewpoint. It causes a lot of problems, and it also is less immediately readable than, say, League of Legends or Dota, where you have that top-down point of view, and even if you don't know the game, it's overt when someone is advancing. It's overt when a team is attacking a tower. It's all like, it makes sense. You don't need to know a level layout to recognize when someone's moving forward into enemy territory. Versus in Overwatch, it's less immediately readable. That said, Overwatch does have some advantages. It's exciting to watch. A lot of stuff is happening. There are a lot of cool visual effects. It's a faster game. So unlike League or whatever, you're not waiting 45 minutes for a match to end. A match will be over pretty quickly, and it can be dissected by, analysts in a way that makes sense. I think the game can be a good esport. They just need to improve that stuff quickly, and until they do, it's hard for me to buy that people would say, oh yeah, we're going to drop millions of dollars into this and just hope for the best.
And Blizzard did just put up a job listing, I believe, for a technician who could work on that.
An esports observer is different from, and I think that's different from a technician who would work on that side of the game, but I do think they'd play a role in improving that.
I think it's probably just worth noting very briefly that at the very least, Blizzard has kind of pushed back against some of this reporting in the sense that they're being really cagey about it.
Yeah.
They're being really, really cagey about it, which almost makes me inclined to believe that they're being defensive because the facts are lining up. But they're trying to dispute some of the claims about the amount of money that this might actually cost people.
Well, yeah, I think for one, it's going to vary based on city. Again, the ESPN report said like blanket 20 million with it maybe going up in bigger cities like LA and New York. What I heard is 15 to 25. And that, that's already some variance. But again, it's still a tremendous amount of money. But also the other thing Blizzard said was, there could be some misinformation in there because some of the people who are giving this information out may be trying to increase their own position in bargaining.
And drive down the cost because of the public outcry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's that to consider. But the source I had, or one of the main sources that I had, was not directly involved. Like they without going too far into revealing what they were about, they had a way of obtaining all this information that is credible, but they also didn't have anything to lose or gain. So, I mean, I buy what they were saying. But yeah, beyond that, it is pretty weird that Blizzard's still being really cagey about this, especially because, in theory, this league is supposed to launch in fall. Fall's not very far away.
No, and we've been excited about it for almost, I mean, how long now?
Since BlizzCon.
8 months?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, but it's just weird that they don't already have this a bit more in order. And so there's a lot of skepticism, both from people behind the scenes and I think just people who would theoretically watch it, that it's not going to launch on time. And I mean, hey, that's Blizzard. They do have a habit of delaying things until they're as polished as can possibly be. But that's also maybe an upside, is that Blizzard will take their time with this and get it right.
I think it might end up being a really good thing.
I definitely hope so. I mean, I like watching like CS:GO and things like that, but Overwatch definitely has a lot of character to it that I think like Counter-Strike and other games don't. So I would like to see this succeed, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of initial growing pains for sure.
Well, yeah, and I will just say, I already watch quite a bit of Overwatch esports stuff. The tournament that OGN's running, Apex, is really high production value for where Overwatch is at right now, is fun to watch, has some really talented people in it, and some teams with a decent amount of character. And it's cool. Like I said, there's a lot of potential there, and there's certainly people pulling off some ridiculous plays. I mean, you got like Meta Athena doing amazing Mei ice wall stuff and like completely breaking levels. I'm excited to see more of that. But as for whether it will take off in a way that validates Blizzard's investment in all of this and their hope that people will shell out millions just to compete, that remains to be determined.
We'll save it for our next episode of Let's Break It Down.
In 4 years.
In 4 years. It'll come, and it'll be super, super fun.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in.
Take it easy.